The crystal award slipped from Aduni's fingers, shattering against the polished oak stage like her world breaking apart. White foam bubbled from her lips as her body convulsed, the golden Versace gown pooling around her like liquid metal. The Azure Diamond Awards ballroom on the 87th floor of Latte World Tower erupted into chaos, screams, gasps, the sound of chairs scraping against Italian marble as Seoul's elite scrambled backward. Aduni! Dong Yul's voice tore through the pandemonium. He vaulted over 3 tables, his midnight blue Givenchy suit jacket flying open, his long hair whipping behind him. He crashed to his knees beside her, rolling her onto her side with practiced precision, his hands trembling as foam continued spilling from her mouth. "Someone call an ambulance." "No." His voice cracked with desperation as he cradled her head, her eyes rolling back, her perfect brown skin turning gray. The ballroom doors exploded inward with a deafening bang. Detective Kong Suk stormed in with 20 tactical officers in full combat gear, weapons drawn, boots thundering across the floor. The crowd parted like water before a shark as he marched straight toward Dong Yul. "Step away from her." "No." Dong Yul looked up, his face twisted in anguish and rage. "She's dying." "I said step away." Kong Suk grabbed his shoulder, yanking him backward. 2 officers moved in, handcuffs glinting under the chandeliers. "Dong Yul, you are under arrest for the first-degree murder of Kim Eugene." The room went silent except for Aduni's labored breathing and the mechanical click of handcuffs locking around Dong Yul's wrists. Chairman Dong pushed through the frozen crowd, his silver hair perfectly styled, his Brioni suit worth more than most people's cars. His phone was already pressed to his ear, his voice a controlled explosion of fury. "Do you have any idea who you're arresting? I will have your badge, your pension, your—" "I know exactly who I'm arresting." Kong Suk pulled out a tablet, shoving it in the chairman's face. Security footage played on the screen, grainy but unmistakable. Dong Yul entering a hotel, time-stamped 3 weeks ago. Joseon Palace Hotel, Suite 1447. Your son was the last person to see Kim Eugene alive. We found her body this morning. Strangled. Left in the bathtub like garbage. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Phones emerged from designer purses and suit pockets, recording everything. Kong Suk turned to face the room, projecting his voice like a prosecutor delivering a closing argument. "And this woman," he gestured to Aduni's convulsing form as paramedics rushed in with a stretcher. "We ran her DNA through our database after a separate immigration investigation." He paused, savoring the moment. Aduni Fashola is Chairman Dong's biological daughter. She's Dong Yul's half-sister. The ballroom exploded. Shouts. Accusations. Camera flashes like lightning strikes. Mrs. Dong stood motionless near table 3, elegant in her Chanel dress, her face a porcelain mask cracking down the middle. Tears carved silent rivers through her perfect makeup as she turned slowly, mechanically, toward her husband, the Nigerian woman. Her voice was barely a whisper, but in the chaos, it cut like a blade. "The one who worked in our home 25 years ago. The one you sent away in the middle of the night with blood money." Her voice shattered. "I knew. I always knew you were lying." Crack. Her slap echoed across the ballroom like a gunshot. Chairman Dong's head snapped to the side, a red handprint blooming across his cheek. The cameras caught everything. His shock, her tears, the complete destruction of one of Seoul's most powerful families playing out in real time. Dong Yul knelt frozen between officers, watching Aduni being loaded onto a stretcher, watching his world collapse, watching everything he thought he knew turn to ash. "No," he whispered. This can't be." But Kong Suk was already reading him his rights, already dragging him toward the exit, already parading him past the cameras and the gasping crowd and the woman he loved dying on a stretcher. The woman who might be his sister. The woman who might cost him everything. 4 months earlier, none of this seemed possible. 4 months earlier, Dong Yul stormed down the obsidian corridors of Dong Enterprise headquarters in Uedo, his hands clenched into fists, his jaw so tight it ached. The floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Han River, but he saw nothing except red. His father's words still rang in his ears like poison. "You will marry Kim Eugene. You will secure the alliance. You will stop being a child and become the heir this family needs." The employees scattered before him like startled birds, pressing themselves against walls, ducking into offices. Everyone knew that look. Everyone knew to stay clear when the young master was angry. He rounded the corner at full speed, blind with rage, and collided with someone. Papers exploded into the air like snow. A leather portfolio hit the marble floor with a thud. A phone skittered across the polished surface. Dong Yul stumbled back, catching himself against the wall. Standing before him was the most beautiful woman he'd ever seen. She wore a crimson business suit that fit like it was painted on, her long straight hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail, her dark skin glowing against the white corridor walls. She held one shoe in her hand, a black Christian Louboutin heel with a fresh scuff mark across the toe. Her eyes locked onto his. Brown. Furious. Absolutely fearless. You. The slap came before he could react. Crack. His head snapped to the side. Pain bloomed across his cheek. The entire corridor went silent. Conversations died mid-sentence. Keyboards stopped clicking. Even the elevator music seemed to pause. Dong-yeol touched his burning cheek, his brain struggling to process what just happened. No one had ever struck him. Not once in his entire 28 years of existence. He turned slowly, his expression unreadable. The woman held up her scuffed shoe like evidence in a trial. Do you have eyes? These are Louboutin. Limited edition Lagos collection. You just destroyed $1,000 with your clumsy feet. A security guard whispered frantically into his radio. We have a situation on the executive floor. I don't care if you're the CEO's assistant or the janitor. The woman's fury poured out like lava. You walk around like you own the place, bumping into people, ruining their property. Dong-yeol started. I'm not finished. She stepped closer, and he caught the scent of her perfume, something exotic, floral, utterly intoxicating. Look at me. Really look at me. Because this is the only time someone like you will ever be this close to someone like me. She put the damaged shoe back on, grimacing at the scuff mark. I am Adani Fashola, Lagos's crown jewel, Africa's top model, the woman who graced the cover of Vogue Africa 3 times. I am excellence personified. She gathered her scattered papers with sharp, angry movements, snatched up her phone and portfolio, and marched toward the boardroom at the end of the hall. The crowd of employees parted before her like the Red Sea. Dong-yeol stood frozen, his cheeks still stinging, his mind reeling. A security guard rushed up, hand on his weapon. Sir, should we detain her? Should we call the police? That was assault. No. The word came out quiet, almost amused. But sir, she struck you. I said no. Dong-yeol touched his cheek again, and the corner of his mouth twitched upward. Don't do anything. His secretary appeared at his elbow, tablet in hand, her face pale with worry. Mr. Dong, the board meeting starts in 5 minutes. That woman, Miss Fashola, she's here to sign the cosmetics contract. Should I cancel? Should I have her escorted out? Dong-yeol watched the boardroom door swing shut behind Adani. Cancel? No. I wouldn't miss this for anything. Sir? Tell my father I'll be there in 2 minutes. And tell him we have a very interesting new employee. The boardroom was all glass and zebra wood. One wall overlooking the river, the others displaying digital screens showing global stock markets. The long polished table seated 20 people, but today only 10 chairs were occupied. 7 board members, Chairman Dong at the head, and Adani with her 3-person Korean management team. Adani sat with her legs crossed, her posture perfect, radiating the kind of confidence that came from never being denied anything in her life. She'd been scouted at 15 in Lagos, had walked runways in Paris by 17, had Grace magazine covers across 3 continents by 22. She knew her worth down to the decimal point. Chairman Dong studied her from across the table, his expression neutral but his eyes sharp. Miss Fashola, your reputation precedes you. As does yours, Chairman. Her voice was smooth, professional, with just a hint of her Nigerian accent curling around the words. Our company is expanding our cosmetics line internationally. We need a face that represents elegance, power, and the transcendence of cultural boundaries. He steepled his fingers. Your portfolio suggests you might be that person. My portfolio proves I am that person, Adani corrected without hesitation. The question isn't whether I'm qualified. The question is whether Dong Cosmetics is worthy of my brand. Bold. Audacious. The board members exchanged glances, some impressed, some offended. Chairman Dong's lips curved into something that might have been a smile. I like you. One of her managers leaned forward nervously. Should we wait for the CEO to arrive before? The door opened. Dong-yeol walked in, and Adani's soul left her body. Her confident posture crumbled slightly. She tried to sink into her chair, tried to make herself smaller, but it was impossible. Their eyes met across the table, and his expression was absolutely unreadable. He sat directly across from her, his movements deliberate and controlled. Miss Adani Fashola, he said, his voice smooth as silk. Welcome to Dong Enterprise. I'm Dong-yeol, CEO of Operations. The room held its collective breath. Everyone had heard about the slap. Everyone was waiting to see what happened next. Before we discuss the contract, Dong-yeol continued. I'd like to address something important. This company is built on three pillars: character, respect, and attitude. He paused, letting the words hang in the air. Tell me, Miss Fashola, do you have attitude? It was a test. A trap. A challenge. A dunny could apologize. Could grovel. Could try to save face. Instead, she lifted her chin and met his eyes directly. Yes, sir. I do. Good. Dong Yul extended his hand across the polished table. Because the face of Dong Cosmetics needs fire. Needs presence. Needs someone who commands attention the moment they enter a room. His eyes never left hers. I think you'll be perfect. She took his hand. His grip was firm, his palm warm, and the moment their skin touched, electricity shot up her arm. Try not to slap anyone else while you're working here, he murmured, just loud enough for her to hear. Heat flooded her cheeks. The contract was signed. Papers were exchanged. Champagne was poured. Chairman Dong raised his glass in a toast. Welcome to the family, Miss Fashola. Those words would haunt everyone in that room. Adani caught up with Dong Yul in the corridor as he headed toward the elevators, her heels clicking rapidly against the marble. Mr. Dong. Wait, please. He stopped, turned, one eyebrow raised. Yes? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry about earlier. I didn't know who you were, and I have this terrible problem with my temper, and my mother always warned me it would get me in trouble one day, and the words tumbled out in a rush. You're rambling. I know. I'm nervous. I just slapped my new boss. She pressed her hands to her face. Please don't fire me. This contract is the biggest opportunity of my career, and Technically, Dong Yul interrupted, you slapped me before you became an employee. So HR can't file it as workplace violence. There's nothing in your contract that covers pre-employment assault. Was he joking? His expression was serious, but there was something in his eyes. OPPA. Sarangi. The shout echoed down the corridor like a siren. A woman appeared from around the corner, moving fast in Prada heels, designer purse swinging, her smile bright and predatory. Kim Eugene was stunning in an ivory pantsuit, her hair perfectly styled, her makeup flawless. She launched herself at Dong Yul like a missile, wrapping her arms around him, pressing kisses to his cheek. I missed you so much, baby. Today was absolutely exhausting. I had 3 dress fittings for the charity gala, then lunch with Congressman Park's wife, then my mother called about the engagement party details. She finally noticed Adani standing there. Her smile froze, her eyes going cold. Oh, who's this? This is Miss Adani Fashola, our new brand ambassador for cosmetics, Dong Yul said flatly, making no move to return Kim Eugene's embrace. Kim Eugene looked Adani up and down slowly, like a scientist examining an interesting but ultimately worthless specimen. Oh, the Nigerian model. She said it with syrupy sweetness that barely masked the condescension underneath. How exotic. Well, I'm sure you'll do adequately for the international markets. Anyway, Appa. She turned her attention back to Dong Yul, dismissing Adani completely. I'll wait in your office. We need to discuss the wedding venue. Don't be long, okay? She kissed his cheek again, shot Adani a smile sharp as a knife, and click-clacked toward the executive suites. Silence settled between them like dust. She seems lovely, Adani said, her voice carefully neutral. She's my Dong Yul paused, his jaw tightening. It's complicated. Complications. Adani pressed the elevator button. Right. Well, I won't keep you from your complication. The elevator dinged. The doors slid open. She stepped inside, pressed the button for the lobby. Just before the doors closed, Dong Yul said, for what it's worth, your shoe wasn't really that expensive. The doors shut on Adani's outraged expression. Alone in the corridor, Dong Yul allowed himself a real smile, the first genuine one in months. 3 days later, Adani walked through the underground parking structure beneath OX Mall, her heels echoing off concrete walls. The photo shoot had run 12 hours, and exhaustion pulled at her bones. She just wanted to get to her car, drive to her tiny apartment in Itaewon, and sleep for approximately 17 hours. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting strange shadows between the rows of parked cars. Most of the spaces were empty this late, just a few luxury vehicles scattered across the vast concrete expanse. Miss Fashola. She spun around, heart leaping into her throat. A man stepped out from between 2 cars, mid-40s, wearing a rumpled suit, carrying a worn leather briefcase. His face was weathered, his eyes the kind that had seen too much and remembered all of it. He moved like a predator, trying to look harmless. Who are you? Adani's hand moved instinctively toward her purse, toward the pepper spray she kept in the side pocket. Detective Hun Choi. He pulled out a badge, flipped it open. We need to talk. I don't talk to strangers in parking garages. Especially not ones who lurk in the shadows like creeps. Not even when that stranger knows you entered South Korea illegally 4 years ago. He pulled a file from his briefcase, held it up. Adani Fashola. Entered on a work visa sponsored by Azure Modeling Agency. Except Azure went bankrupt 2 years ago, which means your visa was never renewed. You've been illegal for 24 months. The blood drained from Adani's face. That's not. Immigration has your photo flagged in their system. One phone call from me, and you're on a plane to Lagos by Monday morning. He stepped closer, his expression almost sympathetic. But it doesn't have to be that way. What do you want? Her voice came out steadier than she felt. Your help. He glanced around the empty garage, then lowered his voice. The Dong family isn't just wealthy, Miss Fashola. They're criminals. Drug trafficking through their shipping companies. Arms deals disguised as machinery imports. Human trafficking through their so-called employment agencies. They've been operating with impunity for 15 years, and we can never touch them because they own half the police force and a third of the government. And you want me to what? Spy on them? Get close to Dongyal. Make him trust you. Better yet, make him fall in love with you. People get careless when they're in love. They share things, expose vulnerabilities, make mistakes. Han Choi pulled out a burner phone, pressed it into her trembling hand. Find evidence we can use to bring the whole family down. You're insane. He'll kill me if he finds out. Or I'll have you deported if you refuse. Han Choi's voice hardened. You have 48 hours to decide. This phone only calls me. Don't try to run. I have people watching you. Don't try to warn the Dongs. I'll know immediately. Just think about it. Think about whether you want to spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder, or whether you want to actually belong somewhere. He disappeared between the cars, his footsteps fading into the concrete labyrinth. Adani stood alone under the flickering fluorescent lights, the burner phone hot and heavy in her palm like a live grenade. She looked at her reflection in her car window. Expensive suit, designer purse, the face that had graced magazine covers across 3 continents. What have I gotten myself into? She whispered to her reflection. Her reflection had no answers. That Friday night, Dong-il sat across from Kim Eugene on the 117th floor of Signal Seoul, watching her mouth move but hearing nothing. The restaurant was all floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing Seoul like a galaxy beneath them, Michelin-starred food on bone china plates, wine that cost more per bottle than most people earned in a month. Kim Eugene had been talking for 40 minutes straight about wedding venues and dress designers and honeymoon destinations and the exact shade of ivory for the table linens. His phone buzzed. A text from his father. Proposal must happen tonight. The ring is in your jacket pocket. Don't embarrass me. Dong-yeol's hand moved unconsciously to his pocket, feeling the velvet box pressing against his ribs like a tumor. And I was thinking a winter wedding at the Shilla would be too predictable, so maybe we do a destination wedding in Santorini. Just close family and maybe 200 guests, nothing too extravagant, Dong-yeol. Are you even listening to me? I'm not proposing tonight, he said quietly. Kim Eugene smile froze on her face like a mask cracking. What? I'm not proposing. I'm not marrying you. My father can threaten whatever he wants, but I won't. You think you have a choice? Her voice dropped, all the sweetness evaporating, leaving pure venom behind. You think I'm just some girl your father picked from a catalog? You stupid, naive boy. She stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor, drawing stares from neighboring tables. She grabbed her designer purse, leaned close to his ear, and whispered, You will marry me, Dong-yeol. And very soon you won't even have the illusion of choice anymore. She walked out, heels stabbing the floor like daggers. Dong-yeol sat alone at the table, a headache building behind his eyes, the velvet box in his pocket feeling heavier with every breath. Later that night, in her penthouse apartment in Cheongdam-dong, Kim Eugene paced across white marble floors, phone pressed to her ear, fury and calculation warring in her voice. It's not working, Appa. He refused. He actually refused in public. The male voice on the other end was smooth, calm, utterly controlled. Park Min-ho spoke like a man who'd never encountered a problem he couldn't solve. Then we moved to phase 2. The drug? Tomorrow night. Tell him you want to talk to end things properly. He'll come because he thinks he's being noble. You slip the cocktail into his wine. Rohypnol and midazolam, the doses I gave you. He'll be unconscious within 10 minutes, and he won't remember anything. And when he wakes up, you'll be in bed next to him. Naked. His clothes scattered on the floor. Wine glasses with both your fingerprints. You cry, you say you both got drunk and emotional, that it just happened. Minho's voice took on a darker edge. And 3 weeks later, you're pregnant. With your baby, Kim Eugene said, touching her still flat stomach. With our baby. But he'll think it's his. Once the pregnancy is confirmed, Chairman Dong will force the marriage, family honor, legitimizing the heir, all that traditional nonsense. And once you're Mrs. Dong-yeol, we take everything, she finished, smiling at her reflection in the floor-to-ceiling windows. The company, the money, the power. Exactly. And Dong-yeol will be exactly where we need him. Trapped, humiliated, and completely under control. By the time he realizes what happened, it'll be far too late. You're brilliant, Appa. And you're mine. Forever. Don't forget that. Never. She hung up, walked to her bathroom, opened a hidden compartment in the mirror. Inside sat a small glass vial filled with clear liquid. She held it up to the light, watching it catch the glow from the city below. Tomorrow night, she whispered. Tomorrow night, everything changes. The next evening, Dong-yeol arrived at Kim Eugene's penthouse with heavy reluctance. He'd spent the day trying to find a way out of this nightmare. Called lawyers, reviewed contracts, searched for loopholes. There were none. His father had been too thorough. Kim Eugene greeted him at the door wearing silk pajamas, her makeup perfect, her smile apologetic. The apartment was lit with candles, soft music playing, expensive wine already breathing on the counter. Thank you for coming. I know yesterday was harsh and I'm sorry. She manufactured tears that looked almost real. I love you so much, and the thought of losing you terrified me. Can we just talk? Really talk? Please? Dong-yeol nodded, too tired to argue. All right, but just for a few minutes. Of course. Here, let me pour us some wine first. For old times? She was already moving to the counter, already pouring from bottles that cost $3,000 each. He should have said no. Should have stayed alert. But exhaustion and desperation had lowered his defenses. To closure, Kim Eugene said, raising her glass. To closure, he echoed and drank. They sat on her white leather couch. She talked about their history, about when they first met, about the good times before everything became about alliances and business. Her voice was soothing, hypnotic. Dong-yeol felt strange after 5 minutes. After 7, his words started slurring. After 9, the room began spinning. I feel wrong. He tried to stand. His legs wouldn't cooperate. It's just the wine, baby. Very strong vintage. Here, let me help you lie down. She caught him as he collapsed, guided his fall toward the couch, then toward her bedroom. The last thing he saw before consciousness fled completely was her smile. Victorious. Predatory. Absolutely triumphant. When Dong-yeol's eyes opened again, sunlight was stabbing through unfamiliar windows. His head felt like someone had driven nails through his skull. His mouth tasted like he'd licked a battery. He was in a bed. Not his bed. He looked down. Shirtless. The sheets tangled around him. He turned his head slowly, nausea rising in his throat. Kim Eugene lay beside him, her bare shoulder visible above the silk sheets, her hair artfully disheveled, her breathing slow and peaceful. On the floor, his clothes. Her clothes. 2 wine glasses. A candle burned down to nothing. His stomach dropped like he'd been thrown off a building. No. No. He slid out of bed as carefully as possible, trying not to wake her, his hands shaking violently as he grabbed his scattered clothes. He couldn't remember. Couldn't remember anything after that second glass of wine. What had he done? What had she done? He was out the door and gone before she woke up. 2 weeks crawled by like wounded animals. Dong-yeol threw himself into work, trying to forget that night, trying to piece together memories that simply didn't exist. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Kim Eugene's face the next morning, sleepy, satisfied, possessive. Meanwhile, Adunni had been avoiding him. After that first photo shoot, she'd requested different shooting schedules, different locations, anything to minimize contact. The burner phone detective Han Choi had given her sat in her apartment drawer like a ticking bomb, and used but impossible to ignore. Then came the phone call that changed everything. Dong-yeol sat in his office, overlooking the Han River, when his secretary buzzed through. Sir, your father is on line 1. He says it's urgent. He picked up. Father, I'm in the middle of. Kim Eugene is pregnant. The world stopped. What? She's pregnant with your child. She took a test this morning. Her doctor confirmed it this afternoon. The wedding is being moved up. We're announcing the engagement next week. Ceremony in 6 weeks. Father, I can't. You can and you will. This is non-negotiable. You slept with her, you got her pregnant. You will marry her and legitimize this child. The contracts are already being drawn up. The venue is booked. This conversation is over. Click. Dong-yeol sat in his leather chair, the phone dead in his hand, and felt the trap close completely around his throat. That evening, he found himself at Namsan Tower Park, sitting on a bench overlooking Seoul's glittering sprawl, trying to breathe through the suffocation. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. If you need someone to talk to, I'm at Namsan Tower. No judgment. Just coffee. He knew that A stood for a dunny. 20 minutes later, she appeared on the path wearing jeans and a sweater, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, looking more real and approachable than she ever had in the office. They walked in silence at first, the autumn air cool against their faces, the city spread beneath them like a blanket of stars. Kim Eugene is pregnant, Dong-yeol said finally, his voice hollow. Adani stopped walking. Oh, the wedding is in 6 weeks. My father already planned everything. I don't have a choice anymore. Do you love her? No. The answer came instantly, honestly. I don't even like her. Then why marry her? Because she's carrying my child. Because in my world, that means obligation, duty, trap. Adani finished for him. They stood at the railing, soul glowing beneath them, and Dong-yeol felt something break open in his chest. I don't even remember that night, he confessed. I had 2 glasses of wine. Just 2. I never lose control like that. I've drunk entire bottles and stayed sharp. But that night, everything went black. I woke up in her bed, and I can't remember a single thing. Adani turned to face him fully, her expression shifting from sympathy to something sharper. Dong-yeol, what if she drugged you? He looked at her like she'd spoken a foreign language. What? Think about it. Your father wants this marriage desperately. She wants your family's wealth and status. You're the only obstacle refusing to cooperate. So she removes your choice. Adani's mind was racing now, connecting dots. 2 glasses of wine shouldn't make you black out unless something else was in them. Dong-yeol leaned against the railing, soul spreading beneath them like a circuit board of lights, and the weight of Adani's words settled over him like ice water. Even if you're right, he said slowly, I can't prove it. The night is gone. The evidence is gone. And she's pregnant now. My child, or what everyone will believe is my child. What if it's not yours? Adani pressed. What if she was already pregnant when she drugged you? What if this whole thing was planned from the beginning? Dong-yeol turned to look at her, really look at her. The city lights reflected in her dark eyes, and something in his chest tightened painfully. Why are you helping me? He asked quietly. You barely know me. I'm your boss. This isn't your problem. You should be running in the opposite direction. Because I'm supposed to be spying on you, Adani thought. Because a detective is blackmailing me with deportation. Because everything about this situation is wrong and complicated and dangerous. But what she said was, because you're the first person in Seoul who's treated me like a human being instead of an asset or a threat. Because you didn't fire me when I slapped you. Because. She hesitated. Because I see you. The real you. Not the CEO or the mafia prince or the cold businessman. I see the man who wanted to teach philosophy, who's trapped in a cage he didn't build. Their eyes met and held. The connection between them was magnetic, terrifying, undeniable. Adani broke away first, stepping back from the railing. I need to go. This is a bad idea. You're engaged. She's pregnant. I'm just an employee. We can't. Wait. Dong-yeol reached for her hand, and the moment their fingers touched, electricity shot through both of them. Please don't disappear. I can't do this alone. She looked at their joined hands, then back at his face. What do you want from me? I don't know. Friendship. Honesty. Someone who doesn't want something from me. He gave a bitter laugh. Is that too much to ask? In your world? Probably. But she didn't pull her hand away. I should warn you, I'm not good at being just friends with people I actually like. Then we're both in trouble. They stood there as the city glowed beneath them and everything became infinitely more complicated. That night, Adani sat in her tiny Itaewon apartment, the burner phone in her hands, her reflection staring back at her from the dark window. She dialed the only number programmed into it. Detective Han Choi answered on the second ring. I was beginning to think you'd chosen deportation. I'll do it, Adani said, her voice steady despite the way her hands shook. I'll help you investigate the Dong family. But I have conditions. You're not in a position to make conditions. Then I'll take my chances with immigration. She called his bluff. I want protection. Real protection. If this goes wrong, if they find out what I'm doing, you get me out safely. No questions, no delays. Silence on the other end. Then agreed. What else? I think Kim Eugene drugged Dong-yeol. I think she trapped him into this pregnancy. I want you to investigate her too, because something tells me she's playing both sides of this game. More silence. When Han Choi spoke again, his voice was thoughtful. What makes you think that? Instinct. And the fact that Dong Yeol is a careful man who doesn't make careless mistakes. Someone who blacks out from 2 glasses of wine isn't careless. They're drugged. Interesting theory. I'll look into it. He paused. But Adani? Be careful. If Kim Eugene is as dangerous as you think, and she suspects you're getting too close to Dong Yeol, she won't hesitate to eliminate you. I know. Do you? Because in my experience, models aren't trained for this kind of work. You're walking into a war zone in designer heels. Then I'll learn to run in them. Adani ended the call before he could respond. She sat in the darkness of her apartment, looking at the Seoul skyline through her window, and wondered when exactly her life had become a Korean drama. Over the next 3 weeks, Dong Yeol and Adani fell into a dangerous pattern. Coffee meetings that turned into long conversations. Quick lunches that stretched into afternoon walks. Professional photo shoots where the chemistry between them made everyone on set uncomfortable. They met at Bukshin Hanok Village in a hidden tea house where tourists never ventured, sitting in a private room with traditional Korean tea ceremony between them. Adani taught him about Nigerian culture, about jollof rice wars and Nollywood films, and what it meant to grow up in Lagos with dreams bigger than the continent. Dong Yeol taught her Korean traditions, the weight of being an only son, the suffocating expectations of a family built on blood and power. They laughed together. Real laughter that neither had experienced in years. They rode bicycles along the Han River at 2 in the morning when the city slept and the world felt like it belonged only to them. Adani's hair flew behind her as she raced ahead, and Dong Yeol chased her, grinning like he was 12 again, before his father had turned him into a weapon. They found a jazz club in Hongdae accessible only through a bookshop's hidden door, where they sat in the back corner sharing soju and dreams. If you could be anything, Adani asked one night, her voice soft under the saxophone's melody, what would you choose? Dong Yeol stared into his glass. Teacher. Philosophy at Seoul National University. I wanted to help people think critically, question everything, find meaning in the chaos. Why didn't you? Because dongs don't teach. We conquer. We consume. We control. His voice was bitter. My father made sure I understood that before I could even understand what it meant. Adani took his hand across the small table. It's not too late to choose differently. It's been too late since the day I was born. But even as he said it, her hand in his felt like possibility. One night, they ended up in Adani's apartment watching a Korean drama neither of them paid attention to. They sat on her second-hand couch, their shoulders touching, the space between them charged with everything they weren't saying. Can I ask you something? Dong Yeol said during a commercial break. Depends on the question. Why did you really come to Seoul? The truth. Adani was quiet for so long he thought she wouldn't answer. Then, quietly, my mother died when I was 15. Breast cancer. Before she died, she told me my father was Korean. A businessman. She wouldn't tell me his name, just that he was important and that he'd paid her to disappear when she got pregnant. Dong Yeol listened, his full attention on her. I came here thinking I'd find him somehow. Make him acknowledge me. Prove I was worth keeping instead of buying off and forgetting. Her voice cracked. Stupid, right? Thinking I could find one man in a city of 10 million people with no name and no photograph. Not stupid, Dong Yeol said softly. Human. Hopeful. Brave. She looked at him, and in that moment, they were inches apart, breathing the same air, balanced on a knife's edge. This is dangerous, Adani whispered. I know. You're engaged. She's pregnant. If anyone finds out. He kissed her. The world stopped turning. Time froze. Everything that was complicated and wrong and impossible melted away, and there was only this. His lips on hers, her hand in his hair, the two of them falling into something that felt like flying. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard, both trembling. I should go, Dong Yeol whispered against her lips. You should, she agreed. Neither of them moved. They kissed again, deeper this time, and Adani knew with absolute certainty that she was in love with him. Completely. Catastrophically. Impossibly in love. And that was the most dangerous thing of all. Meanwhile, Detective Han Choi sat in his cramped office above a convenience store in Siademan, surrounded by files and photographs and evidence that painted a picture darker than he'd imagined. His partner, Detective Young Min, entered with coffee and urgency. You need to see this. She spread photographs across his desk. Surveillance shots of Kim Eugene entering luxury hotels, meeting with a man whose face was always hidden, always in shadow. I've been following her for 2 weeks, Youngmin said. She meets this man every 3 days. Always different hotels. Always the same black Mercedes with tinted windows. Always 2 hours exactly. Any ID on the man? Not yet. But I found something else. She pulled up bank records on her laptop. Kim Eugene receives regular deposits of 500,000 every month for the past 6 months. The money comes from an offshore account registered to a shell company. What company? I had to dig through 3 layers of corporate shielding, but I finally traced it. Young Min turned the screen to face him. The shell company is owned by Park Min-ho. Han Choi went absolutely still. Park Min-ho, the shipping magnate, and Dong Enterprises' biggest competitor. Their only real rival for market control in Seoul. Young Min leaned forward. She's not just trapping Dong Yeol for marriage. This is a corporate takeover disguised as a love story. Han Choi stood, pacing the small office. If Dong Yeol gets arrested for murder, if he's disgraced publicly, the company falls into chaos. Chairman Dong is old, traditional. Without his heir, the empire starts crumbling. Perfect time for a hostile takeover. So what do? We need hard evidence. Bank records won't be enough. They'll claim it's consultant fees or some legitimate business connection. He grabbed his jacket. I need to warn a dunny. If Kim Eugene suspects she's getting too close to Dong Yeol, she won't hesitate to eliminate the competition. He grabbed his phone and dialed. 3 days later, a dunny met Detective Han in the massive ZOX library, where thousands of books rose to the ceiling like towers, and the sound of pages turning created white noise that covered conversations. They met in the philosophy section, appropriately enough. Kim Eugene is planning something big, Han said without preamble, keeping his voice low. She's connected to Park Min-ho, Dong Enterprises' biggest competitor. This isn't about love or family. It's about a corporate takeover. A dunny's blood ran cold. What kind of timeline are we looking at? Unknown. But it'll be public, spectacular, designed for maximum damage. They'll want to destroy Dong Yeol completely. Reputation, freedom, everything. So what do? Get closer. Find out what he knows. But Han grabbed her arm, his expression serious. Be careful. Kim Eugene already suspects something. My sources say she's been asking questions about you, hiring private investigators to dig into your background. She threatened me last week, a dunny admitted. Called me late at night, told me to stay away from her man or I'd regret it. That's not a threat, a dunny. That's a promise. Han released her arm. Watch your back. Don't eat or drink anything she could have touched. Don't go anywhere alone late at night. And whatever you do, don't let Dong Yeol know you're working with me. If he finds out, I know, he'll hate me. Or worse. What she didn't say was that she was already in too deep, that she'd fallen for the man she was supposed to betray, that every secret she kept felt like swallowing glass. That night, Dong Yeol stood on his penthouse balcony overlooking Seoul, a glass of whiskey in his hand, his phone buzzing with another call from his father. He answered. Father. The wedding venue is confirmed. January 15th. 3 months from now. The invitations are being printed. You will attend all the pre-wedding events, you will smile for the cameras, and you will not embarrass this family. Am I clear? And if I refuse? Then I will cut you off completely. No company position. No inheritance. No family name. You'll be dead to me. Chairman Dong's voice was ice. Is that what you want? To throw away everything for your pride? Maybe I don't want any of it. Silence. Then, quietly, dangerously, you ungrateful child. After everything I've given you, everything I've built for you. Dong Yeol hung up, turned off his phone, threw it across the room. He looked at his contacts before the screen went dark, finding a dunny's name, and typed, "Run away with me." He stared at the message for a full minute, his thumb hovering over send. Then he deleted it. Instead, he typed, "Dinner tomorrow? I need to see you." Her response came within seconds. Always. He smiled despite the weight crushing his chest, despite the cage closing around him, despite everything. Because for just a moment, she made him feel free. The next evening, they met at Jungsik, a Michelin-starred restaurant in Cheongdam-dong where the food was art and the privacy was absolute. They sat in a private booth, candlelight dancing between them, barely touching the expensive dishes. I've decided something, Dong Yeol said, setting down his chopsticks. A dunny's heart hammered. Should I be worried? I'm calling off the wedding. I'm refusing the marriage. Whatever consequences come, I don't care anymore. She reached across the table, took his hand. Are you sure? Your father will. I know exactly what he'll do. Cut me off, disown me, destroy my reputation in Seoul's business circles. I've spent 3 weeks calculating every possible outcome. He met her eyes. And I'd rather lose everything than spend my life trapped in a lie. Dong-yeol. The restaurant doors slammed open with enough force to rattle glasses. Every head in the restaurant turned. Kim Eugene stood in the entrance, her hair wild, her makeup smeared, her eyes absolutely deranged. She'd followed him, tracked his phone or bribed his driver, or simply hunted him down with the single-minded intensity of someone who felt control slipping through her fingers. You bastard. Her scream shattered the elegant atmosphere like a brick through glass. She stormed across the restaurant floor in designer heels that stabbed the wood like weapons, heading straight for their table. All those late nights. All those business meetings. All those lies. She grabbed a water glass from a passing server's tray and hurled it. Not at Dong-yeol. At a dunny. The water drenched her silk blouse. The glass shattered on the marble floor, shards scattering like diamonds. You home-wrecking Nigerian bitch. Adani stood slowly, water dripping from her hair, her expression going cold and dangerous. Watch your mouth. Or what? You'll steal more from me? You already took my fiancé. He was never yours. Adani stepped forward, and suddenly they were face to face, fury radiating from both of them. You trapped him. You drugged him and lied about that baby. Kim Yoo-jin's face went white for a split second. Genuine shock, genuine fear, before rage painted it red again. She launched herself at Adani. They collided like storms. Tables crashed. Dishes shattered. Other diners screamed and scattered. Kim Eugene grabbed Adani's hair, yanking hard. Adani grabbed back, and they spun across the restaurant floor like violent dancers. He's mine. I'm carrying his child. Is it even his? Or is it Park Min-ho's? Kim Eugene froze. Her hands went slack in Adani's hair. Her face drained of all color. That 1 second of absolute shock told Adani everything she needed to know. Dong-yeol finally managed to pull them apart, holding Kim Eugene back as she clawed the air toward Adani like a feral cat. The entire restaurant had their phones out. Every camera in Seoul was pointed at them. This would be on every news site within the hour, trending on every social media platform by midnight. Dong-yeol's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. This is over, Eugene. The engagement. The wedding. All of it. We're done. Kim Eugene stopped struggling. Went completely still. Then smiled. It was the most terrifying thing Adani had ever seen. A smile of absolute certainty, of knowing something they didn't, of holding cards they couldn't see. You'll regret this, she whispered, her voice eerily calm. Both of you. Very, very soon. She straightened her torn designer dress, picked up her purse from where it had fallen, and walked out of the restaurant with her head high, stepping over broken glass and ruined food like a queen leaving a battlefield. The silence she left behind was deafening. Dong-yeol turned to Adani, his eyes full of concern. Are you hurt? She touched her scalp where Kim Eugene had yanked her hair, winced. I've survived worse. Lagos modeling scene is brutal. This was practically gentle. Despite everything, he almost laughed. Only you would call that gentle. But neither of them was laughing when they saw the phones, the cameras, the evidence of their very public destruction spreading across the internet in real time. That same night, in an underground parking garage beneath Joseon Palace Hotel, Kim Eugene threw herself into the passenger seat of a black Mercedes with tinted windows. Park Min-ho sat behind the wheel, handsome in a cold, calculating way, early 40s, wearing a suit that cost more than most people's cars. He didn't look at her, just started the engine. It's falling apart, Kim Eugene said, her voice cracking with rage and desperation. He broke off the engagement in public. That Nigerian bitch knows about you. She said your name in the middle of the restaurant. I know. I watched the videos. Min-ho's voice was ice. Which means we accelerate the timeline. To when? The Azure Diamond Awards. 3 weeks from now. He pulled out a tablet, showed her photographs. Security layouts of Latte World Tower. Chemical formulas. Detailed architectural plans. You'll poison Adani during her acceptance speech. Make it look like Dong-yeol did it, a man driven insane by forbidden obsession. And my death? We stage it the same day, earlier in the evening. Make it look like Dong-yeol strangled you in your hotel room when you threatened to expose his affair. Min-ho finally looked at her, his hand moving to her stomach. While Seoul mourns your tragic murder, you'll be on a private plane to Singapore. New identity, new face if necessary. You disappear for exactly 1 year. What about the baby? Our baby will be raised as the Dong heir once I take control of the company. Your death makes the inheritance untouchable. No one can challenge a dead woman's child. His smile was sharp. And Dong Yul will rot in prison for double murder, while I dismantle his father's empire piece by piece. Kim Eugene leaned back, a smile spreading across her face. You're brilliant. No. I'm thorough. He pulled out another phone, dialed a number. We have one more player to confirm. Detective Kong Suk. The man who answered spoke in a gruff voice, clearly in a crowded place, probably a bar. The timeline moved up? 3 weeks. Can you deliver? For 300 million won? I can deliver anything. Kong Suk laughed. I'll plant the evidence, lead the investigation, make the arrest happen during the award ceremony for maximum media coverage. By the time I'm done, Dong Yul won't just be guilty, he'll be the most hated man in Korea. Perfect. I'll transfer half the money tomorrow. You get the rest when he's convicted. Min Ho hung up, turned to Kim Eugene. 3 weeks. That's all we need. Can you hold yourself together that long? I can do whatever it takes. She kissed him, deep and possessive. This city will be ours. 2 days after the restaurant disaster, Adani sat alone in a small Ethiopian restaurant in Itaewon, stirring injera through wet sauce but not eating. The events kept replaying in her mind. The fight, the cameras, Kim Eugene's terrifying smile. The door opened. Dong Yul walked in, no reservation, no plan. He'd driven past, seen her car, made a decision. You're following me now? Adani asked, but there was no heat in it. Can I sit? She gestured to the empty chair across from her. They sat in heavy silence, the weight of secrets pressing down on both of them. I need to tell you something, Adani said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. And you're going to hate me. I doubt that's possible. Don't. She took a shaking breath. I didn't get close to you by accident. I was blackmailed by a detective. Detective Han Choi. He threatened to deport me if I didn't spy on you, gather evidence against your family. Dong Yul went absolutely still, his expression unreadable. He said your family was involved in trafficking, smuggling, violence. He said he needed someone on the inside to bring you down. Tears started streaming down her face. I was terrified. I'm illegal here, one phone call and I lose everything. My career, my life, any chance of finding my father. So you use me. His voice was flat, emotionless. At first, yes. The words tasted like poison. But then I got to know you. The real you. Not the cold CEO or the mafia prince, but the man who wanted to teach philosophy, who bikes at 2 a.m. because it's the only time he feels free, who looks at me like I'm the only thing in the world that matters. Dong Yul stood abruptly. I need to leave. Wait, please, Adani grabbed his hand. Han Choi is lying. He's working with someone who wants to destroy your family. And I think Kim Eugene is part of it. She's connected to Park Min-ho, your father's biggest competitor. They're planning something public and devastating, and I think it's happening soon. Dong Yul stopped. Park Min-ho. Detective Han mentioned his name. Said Kim Eugene has been meeting him regularly, that she's receiving money from shell companies he controls. Adani stood, still holding his hand. I think she's planning to fake her death and frame you for murder. I think she's going to poison me at some public event and blame it on you. I think. Why are you telling me this? Dong Yul interrupted, his voice rough with emotion. Because despite everything, despite the lies and the manipulation and the impossible situation we're in, her voice broke completely. I love you. I'm completely catastrophically in love with you. And I can't let them destroy you, even if it means you'll hate me forever. Dong Yul stared at her, his jaw working, emotions warring across his face. Say something, Adani whispered. I should hate you. I know. I should never trust you again. I know. I should walk out right now and never look back. I know. Instead, he pulled her into his arms and kissed her like she was oxygen, and he was drowning. When they broke apart, both were crying. I love you too, he said against her hair. God help us both, but I love you too. What do we do now? We fight. We figure out their plan and we stop it. He pulled back to look at her. Together. Together, she agreed. Meanwhile, in his cramped office, Detective Han Choi was racing against time. His partner Young Min burst in with new evidence, her face pale with urgency. We have a major problem. Kim Eugene's medical records. I finally got access through a source at the hospital. And the pregnancy test that supposedly proves she's carrying Dong Yul's baby, the dates don't match. According to the conception timeline and fetal development, she was already 5 weeks pregnant when she claims they slept together. Han Choi's eyes narrowed. She was pregnant before she drugged him. Exactly. And there's more. Young Min pulled up test results on her laptop. I got the wine glasses from her apartment. They were kept as evidence for an unrelated investigation. Tested them myself. Traces of rohypnol and midazolam. Enough to knock out a grown man for 12 hours and erase his memory completely. We need to tell Dong Yul. There's more. Young Min's expression was grim. I hacked into Detective Kong Suk's emails. He's planning to arrest Dong Yul at a public event, make it a media spectacle. And there's a secondary operation mentioned in coded language. Something about eliminating the Nigerian asset. They're going to kill a dunny. In 3 weeks. At some kind of gala or awards show. Young Min looked up from her screen. We need to move now. Han Choi was already grabbing his coat and his gun. Call a dunny. Tell her to meet me at the usual place. And Young, bring everything we have. Every piece of evidence. It's time to end this. 3 weeks crawled by like wounded animals. Dong Yul and Adunni worked with Detective Han Choi to gather evidence, to build a case, to prepare for whatever Kim Eugene and Park Min-ho had planned. But they were always one step behind, always missing something, always feeling like the trap was closing but unable to see exactly how it would spring. The night before the Azure Diamond Awards, Adunni sat in her apartment with Detective Han Choi, going over the plan one more time. You're sure about this? Han asked, his expression concerned. I'm sure. If Kim Eugene is planning to poison me at the ceremony, we need to catch her in the act. Which means I need to actually drink whatever she gives me. The antidote will work within 30 seconds. You'll experience some symptoms, coughing, disorientation, but you won't actually go into a coma. And if something goes wrong, then we have paramedics standing by with the full medical countermeasures. Han handed her a small pill. This is the antidote. Keep it in your cheek. The moment you feel the poison hit, bite down on it. The coating will dissolve and neutralize the toxin before it reaches your bloodstream. Adunni held the tiny pill up to the light. Her entire plan depended on this working. And Dong Yul? Doesn't know. Can't know. His reaction has to be genuine for this to work. For Kim Eugene to believe she's won. He'll never forgive me for not telling him. He'll be alive to not forgive you. That's what matters. Han stood. Get some rest. Tomorrow changes everything. After he left, Adunni sat alone in her apartment, looking at the Seoul skyline through her window, wondering if she was about to make the biggest mistake of her life. Her phone buzzed. A text from Dong Yul, I love you. No matter what happens tomorrow, remember that. She typed back with trembling fingers. I love you too. More than you'll ever know. She wanted to tell him everything. Wanted to warn him that tomorrow would break him, that she would seem to die in his arms, that everything he saw would be a lie designed to trap the real killers. But she couldn't. The plan only worked if his grief was real. So instead, she just wrote, trust me. Please trust me. His response came immediately. Always. Adunni closed her eyes and prayed she wasn't about to destroy the only man she'd ever loved. The Azure Diamond Awards ceremony unfolded exactly as planned. The ballroom on the 87th floor of Latte World Tower sparkled with Seoul's elite. Adunni wore her golden Versace gown, her heart hammering against her ribs. The antidote pill sat hidden in her cheek, waiting. Dong Yul watched from table 7, his eyes never leaving her, his expression full of love and pride and fear. Backstage, Kim Eugene, disguised in a black wig and staff uniform, approached the champagne glasses waiting for the winners. She pulled out a small vial, unscrewed the cap, poured clear liquid into the glass marked for Adunni. And the award for Best International Model and Actress goes to Adunni Fashola. The crowd erupted in applause. Adunni stood, walked to the stage, accepted the Crystal Award with steady hands. She approached the microphone. Thank you. This award represents. She coughed. Small. Deliberate. Bit down on the antidote pill. Coughed again, harder, letting the symptoms play out exactly as Hun had described. The Crystal Award slipped from her fingers and shattered. Everything unfolded exactly as the opening scene. Her collapse, the foam, Dong Yul's desperate rush to save her, Detective Kong Suk's dramatic arrest, the DNA revelation, the slap. Except Adunni wasn't dying. She was acting. And in the hospital hours later, when Kim Eugene snuck into her room dressed as a nurse with a syringe full of poison, Adunni's eyes snapped open. Surprise, bitch. Kim Eugene ran. Adunni chased, tearing off her hospital gown to reveal the clothes underneath, sprinting through hospital corridors as Detective Han Choi and his team moved in. They cornered her in the stairwell. It's over, Eugene. Kim Eugene smiled. even with nowhere left to run. Is it? Did you really think you were the only one with secrets? She leaned forward, whispered, check the DNA test again. But this time, check whose daughter you really are. Before Adani could respond, Kim Eugene vaulted over the railing, but landed on an airbag 3 floors down, rolled, and ran. Straight into the arms of waiting police officers. Adani stood frozen, the word echoing in her mind. The DNA test. The sister revelation. What if that part was true? What if she really was Adani? She turned to find Dong Yul running toward her, released from custody, Detective Young Min having presented all the evidence of the conspiracy. He swept her into his arms, and she held him tight, both of them shaking. You're alive. You're alive. He kept repeating it like a prayer. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I couldn't tell you. I don't care. You're alive. Nothing else matters. But as they held each other in that hospital stairwell, both knew this wasn't over. Kim Yoo-jin's final words hung between them like a bomb waiting to explode. The DNA test. The sister question. The truth about Adani's father. Some mysteries were solved tonight. But the biggest one, the one that could destroy them completely, was just beginning. If you've made it this far, this story isn't over. Hit that subscribe button because part 2 is coming, and trust me, you do not want to miss what happens next. Drop a comment telling me your theories about Adani's real father. And smash that like button if this story had you on the edge of your seat. Part 2 drops next week, and I promise you, the twists are just getting started.